Hey, this is Eddie Muller. Welcome back to TCM's Friday Night Neo-Noir series. I am joined by my colleague Ben Mankiewicz, and we are about to show like a quintessential 1960s movie, Point Blank, starring Lee Marvin and Angie Dickinson.
You have to mention Angie Dickinson when Angie Dickinson is in a movie. It's a rule.
So this is based on a novel, also called Point Blank, by a writer named Richard Stark, who is actually Donald Westlake, one of the great crime fiction writers.
Donald Westlake is a large presence in the Mankiewicz family home right now. My wife, Lee, is, I think in the last 6 weeks, she's read 5 or 6 Westlake novels, and we have, 10 more stacked up, ready to go.
But when he wrote these books about this character named Parker, he used a pseudonym, Richard Stark, because the books are much more violent and hardcore than his other stuff. And so they've adapted this one as Point Blank. And the thing that's amazing about this film is it's all Lee Marvin. This is his movie, really, because the backstory of how it came to be is all about his superstardom at this point in his career.
Yeah, he got John Boorman to direct it, and then Boorman had all this editorial control, final cut, but that was all given to him by Marvin. It was all Marvin. It was like, yeah, he's directing it. He's in charge. What he says goes. That's it.
Exactly, yeah. But the thing about this movie that's so astounding is, so here it is, 1967, and it's 1 year after Harper, which is pretty traditionally made. But John Boorman is clearly a British director, is clearly influenced by the new wave filmmakers in Europe, and he has every new technique and everything going on in this film, and a magnificent color scheme. The cinematographer, Phil Lathrop, does a beautiful job in this movie. Everything has its own color pattern in the film.
Let me just go back to your point about 66 and 67, because I spend, when asked, and I find a way to get myself asked a fair amount, talking a lot about the years 67 to 76, which are these sort of, I think, the best 10 years of American movies. And you probably don't think that, being you. And the reason is because there was such a stark difference between 66 and 67. Boorman would not have made this movie in 1966. But 67, things changed. You get The Graduate, you get Heat of the Night. It's not, content changes and the look changes too. And then through 76, and then in 77, you get Star Wars, which just changes things. There are certainly movies after that that fit that 67 to 76 period, but 77, Hollywood becomes something different. So it matters that this is 67 and not 66.
Absolutely. And I think that the studio, MGM, did not have the slightest idea what John Boorman was doing.
Clearly not.
With this movie.
They wouldn't have let him do it. I mean, if they'd been able to, if Lee Marvin hadn't said, this guy's in charge, what he says goes, they would have stepped in and tried to undercut him, I'm certain.
Yeah, but clearly after the success of The Dirty Dozen, Marvin was just this force. And he displays that force in this movie to such an extraordinary degree. And there's stuff in this movie that is pretty extraordinary in terms of the decisions that Marvin makes as an actor. And it's also a very interesting film because you couldn't be ambiguous in movies before 1967, as you pointed out. And there's a lot of debate about what actually happens in this movie. What's it all about? From the start to the finish, is this happening in linear fashion, or is Boorman cutting this all up and there are different time periods, and what the heck is actually going on in this film? But Marvin carries it all the way through.
I know we got to show it, but to that point, one of the notes I wrote was, I can't imagine my father watching this movie and trying to figure out what was going on, because there is very little effort to tell you when something is a flashback and when something is happening in the present. And my dad would constantly be like, "Well, how did he get on the floor with that guy? What did he do? Right? I thought he killed that guy." And so I was, but that amused me to no end. But folks,
that's not a bad idea. Too bad, Ben. It would have been funny to see our dads doing this, talking about movies. Would have been, this doesn't make a damn bit of sense.
Why are they on the floor? Killed that guy 10 minutes ago, didn't he? Forget it. Where's the paper? Yeah.
Well, now you can decide for yourself. You can try to make heads or tails out of this. I think this is an absolute masterpiece.
That's great.
I love this film. Here is Lee Marvin and Angie Dickinson.
Thank you.
Starring in Point Blank.